Hey, Ash, are we having boys' Bible study after school today?
You bet.
That's great, because I have a lot of questions.
And the Bible has all the answers. Hey, Scotty.
What?
Jesus, man.
Hey, what are you losers doing?
Oh, great. Hi, Julian.
Just getting ready for our weekly boys' Bible study.
Whoa. Like the podcast?
Yeah, that's us.
No way. Listen, I love your free episodes, but I only wish there were a way to hear more.
Well, actually, now there is. If you subscribe for $5 or more at patreon.com/boysbiblestudy, you get access to our entire catalog of secret bonus episodes. We also make at least 2 new ones every month.
Yeah, and if you subscribe at the $20 tier, you become our patron saint, and we shout you out on every episode. Shout outs to Nicole, Marissa, Russell, and Jeff.
Boys, your tremendous achievements in podcasting have just inspired me to stop being a high school bully, quit smoking, and never have sex again.
Wow, amazing.
Hey, Scott. Jesus, man.
Hey, Julian. Jesus, man.
Hey, Ash. Jesus, man.
Hey, Julian. Jesus, man.
Jesus,
man.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. I'm your host, Julian, and with me are my co-hosts,
Ash.
And Scott.
Today's movie, Mercy Streets, continues in this spotlight we're doing on the work of David A.R. White. The films that we've covered of his in the past weeks include Me Again, the Christian body swap film. We did a bonus episode of End of the Harvest, which is a story of a college Christian trying to win over some college atheists. And most recently, we took a look at Second Glance, his fresh-faced debut as the star of a high school sort of alternate reality Christian fairy tale. But today we have him like not too far after that, but he seems like way more grown up to me. Right? Like, I don't know. I feel like he's very mature in this film.
He's a little older, a little wiser. The context with which he's acting is a lot more serious and feels like a mainstream, like it could have been a, was this movie nationally released?
That's a good question. I don't
It's gotta be.
Yeah,
I would have to say so.
it feels like a movie that was probably in your theaters near you and then just came and went.
They released the soundtrack, so that's enough sign to me that it was a national deal.
Yeah, this might be the closest brush with secular Hollywood he's ever been in.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, for one thing, he looks good. Like, he's got the fucking Chris Gaines, like, swoopy, like, dark bangs, and, like,
Chris Gaines, too.
He wrote down in your notes, he looks like Chris
I
Gaines.
saw him.
Yeah, and he looks good. I mean, his body's filled out. We even see him, like, shirtless and hunky in this film, which is like, damn, my boy's coming out, you know?
Yeah, he's even objectified and
Yes.
seen.
Love
He
that.
kisses 2 different women. He smokes cigarettes for real.
Yeah, no, this is like a very like mainstream secular taste of the world of David A.R. White. He really just feels like, like a movie star in this, like, and we'll get to it a little more as we talk about the film, but like, I would just start off by saying, like, of all the movies we've watched in this podcast, this has got to be the one that like passes for a quote unquote normal movie the most, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that even like comes close.
No, I wrote down in my notes that this is like by far the best movie, best quote unquote movie that we've watched. And I don't know if it's a reflection of everything else we've watched or if the movie is like genuinely like above mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like definitely made by somebody who knows how to make a movie coherently from start to finish and isn't interested in like weird little simulacrums of their favorite genres or like just straight up copying like movies that they saw once and then we're like, wouldn't it be awesome if we did this in our movie?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Now this is like one that you watch on TV, you know, it just like comes on TV and you're like, oh, I'm just like watching a thriller. I guess just like a little background on this before we get into it. 2003? Yeah?
2000.
Oh, 2000. Hold on. I
2000.
navigated away. Yes. The year 2000.
Yeah, that's why it feels so late 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
The latest 90s you can get, 2000. Directed by John Gunn, who has a Christian movie career. We have yet to discuss him on the pod, but I've heard of The Case for Christ. I haven't seen it. You guys have seen that though, right?
Yeah, I have. That was like the most recent big Christian movie that came out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you can see that on Netflix.
I also did My Date with Drew, not a Christian movie, but I do remember that movie coming out for some reason. Mockumentary / documentary about a guy trying to get on a date with Drew Barrymore.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah, he has like 30 days to make a documentary before he has to return a camera to Circuit City. So beyond that, after that movie, I think it was just straight Christian cinema for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But make no mistake about this one too. It is a Christian movie.
Yes.
Yes,
Just
it
have
is.
a much more talking about this movie, I wouldn't first refer to it as a Christian movie. I would say it's like a late 90s indie movie because it has that aesthetic. And the only other movies I would think of when watching it are secular ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like what? What are some good comparison points to this?
Visually, I kept thinking like Buffalo 66, which I would definitely recommend this movie over Buffalo 66.
I don't know about that. I like Buffalo 66.
Yeah, I mean, just given the subject matter and the person who made it.
I have a thing for horrible people.
Yeah.
I think that if our personal tagline for Mercy Streets is the Christian Buffalo 66, like I think that is a really, really compelling angle. So
it has that thing where it's like you think, I mean, this one especially is like you're watching it and you're like, wow, what a stylish movie. And then you realize like really the only editing techniques they're using are like freeze frame, slow motion. But it's all done to music, so it looks cool. Yes. And then that weird effect where it like dissolves to white really fast, like the camera's running out of film. That was big in this era of indie cinema.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy. I thought it was crazy when David A.R. White and his girlfriend hold hands and watch that building crumble while the Pixies are playing. That was insane when that happened in this film. No, but you're right. There's a lot of like big moments like set to music, which I mean, I don't know. I mean, film and music are always paired, but I do think there is something distinctly like late 90s about the way this film used music. I mean, maybe I'm just being
it's like it's heavily like MTV influenced.
Yeah.
In terms of editing and pacing.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. And it was like a noticeable soundtrack too. Like there's a lot of names on here. You got Moby, Sixpence None the Richer.
Yeah.
Delirious, a big Christian one. And a big one for me, Cloud to Ground. I had totally forgotten about this electronic artist.
What is Cloud to Ground?
Cloud to Ground. I've never met anyone else who knows what Cloud to Ground is ever in my life. I found it at my local Christian bookstore where I could listen to any CD that they had before I bought it. It's kind of like trancey. There's no lyrics or anything really. And I remember like when I listened to it, I was like, I guess this is Christian. I mean, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like the first time I heard it was like I heard a Christian album and was like, I guess like anybody could make instrumental stuff and call it Christian. But, I'm not saying that it's not, but
and Moby is the first song you hear in this, which I thought was like pretty wild to hear that licensed to a Christian movie, but that was like licensed to anything and everything. And also, Moby and David A.R. White famously dated in the 90s after they were seen.
So says Moby
picture
anyway.
Together. Yeah.
It's a weirdly cropped picture, and he claims it's David A.R. White's hand. TBD. What the source of that is. But yeah, that Moby song's from his album Play, which, like you said, Julian, is heavily licensed. I think I'm pretty sure Moby could live forever just off that album.
Many ways that this movie reminded me of Southland Tales. 1, Moby soundtrack. 2, Cops, cop drama. 3, Twins, split screen Twins, which we will be about to explain.
And twins.
I would say, well, Southland Tales, early 2000s, but still, this is the Buffalo 66 of Christian films. This is the Southland Tales of Christian films. What was that other one you were comparing to? Not Bottle Rocket.
Oh, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
I'm not familiar.
It's a Guy Ritchie. British heist flick. This feels like I know the guy was like 28 John Gunn was 28 when he made this, but it really does kind of feel like a film school student's approximation of a heist movie, down to like convoluted heist that, when you think about it, isn't really that complicated, but ultimately depends on other people who are not in on the plan doing exactly what everyone is saying. Otherwise, it would completely implode.
I love that.
And I also, as a side note, recently rewatched Snatch, and that movie looks like it was edited on iMovie. Not nearly as stylish as you may remember it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Man,
I haven't
seen it in like 20 years.
I was really blown away by the fact that watching that for the first time. I was like, this is the next evolution in cinema. This is the most stylized movie you could ever possibly make.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny.
Yeah. So some other big players in this film. So, okay, we're Christian, the late 90s, the year 2000, in fact. David A.R. White's looking hotter and hotter every day. He's in his prime as a leading man. But, and I should say, since we've covered David A.R. White for the past couple weeks, as I said last week, we're not going to get into his full background and history. If you haven't gotten to listen to yet to our report on the movie Me Again, featuring our friend filmmaker Anthony Benuis-Simon, he and the three of us really went into David A.R. White's history and background for like a good half hour. So I'd start there. But let's assume that you know a bit about him and the fact that he eventually founded PureFlix, the most notorious Christian film production company. But we have some other notable people in the cast. First of all, star of basically every movie, Eric Roberts. We got Eric in the mix.
Woo-hoo.
We love him. If you're like us and you love like D tier cinema, then pretty much 50% of the movies you watch have an Eric Roberts cameo.
He was good in this one.
Oh, he was great.
I was going to say, this is not just any Eric Roberts. This is Eric Roberts who wanted to do the movie and was probably on set for a whole week rather than like an hour he had for like actually I have 2 hours for lunch, but I already finished it. I'll be right over. That's how his roles usually feel lately.
He looked good. He was
did.
acting good. He clearly had his lines memorized, which is not always the case, it seems.
No.
Yeah. Prime time, what's his name? Eric Roberts.
Yeah, no, he looked good. He looked handsome. He had his skin looked good.
Yeah, what more can you say? He had a glow.
He did. He was glowing. Who else do we got?
Cynthia Watros who played Libby on Lost. If you're a Lost fiend like me back in high school, then familiar face there. Lawrence Taylor for all you Giants fans or people who didn't like Phil Theismann. He broke his leg.
Was he an athlete?
Yeah, he's a professional football
Oh, wow. Okay. I had no
Yeah.
idea. Stacy Keach.
Oh, yeah. Great. Very underrated. character actor. What is a character actor? I always just assume that's like,
That means if you're ugly.
yeah, ugly and nobody like knows your name, but you recognize that person.
Yeah, if you're like really good at acting, but you're ugly, then that's what's known as a character actor.
Yeah, he's underutilized in this because he's really good in it.
Yeah.
Like he is in most things.
He's the dad in Titus.
They may have only had for a day. Not that he was in Gotti.
Oh yeah. He was the old guy.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, ninth configuration.
Of course, now you're excited. You hear he's in God.
Yeah, that's me. That's my idea of being a cinephile. Is I'm like, wait, literally, who is this guy? Oh shit, he was in Gotti. Wow, what a legend.
Gotti's not dead.
Well, I was actually thinking, and as we'll get into it, but Stacy Keach has one very pivotal scene where he plays sort of like, a priest who offers guidance to David A.R. White as a priest, a pastor. I don't know exactly what he'd be considered in this.
He's
as a religious figure, Episcopalian. But this is just to say that Stacy offers guidance as like a senior religious figure, and although he didn't act it the same, I was kind of reminded of our man Michael Francesi in Kevin Sorbo's film God's Not Dead, when he's being the mafia guy who is like also giving the like priestly guidance.
Jesus gets whacked, you see. But this he's like the southern stand-up comedian version of this guy.
Right.
He's like, what do God and my ex-wife have in common?
Right.
Or don't have in common.
Right.
You see, the great thing about God, unlike my ex-wife, you don't have to be perfect for him to accept you.
No, I love that. I love like maybe this is a new Christian movie trope we're uncovering of like the senior priest guidance, but the priest is like not your typical priest.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say things that you might expect. He's a little
alt.
Yeah. He's a little edgy, just enough. So let's get into Mercy Streets.
Well,
Sorry, go on.
Just real quick. Have you noticed the sub theme that's been running throughout our block of David A.R. White films?
No, I don't know what you mean.
Well, where did we start? We started with Into the Harvest, right?
Sure.
Okay. David A.R. White, his friend has to go up to give this big, lead this debate against the Philosophers Club. What happens? His friend backs out. David A.R. White has to swap places with him. Me again. David A.R. White swaps places with all these people. What was another one we watched?
Second Glance.
Second Glance. David A.R. White swaps places with himself into a cooler place. And now Mercy Streets. David A.R. White swaps places with his twin.
And twins.
Every movie, he's put in a position where he doesn't know. I mean, and in most of these, he's put in a position where he doesn't know what's going on, but he has to fake it until he can figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What's with this guy?
They're all life swap situations. Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
What is it then about the characteristic of David A.R. White? Like, what is it about his particular brand of charisma that makes you want to have him in a situation where he's like a fish out of water?
I don't know. I think it's supposed to be like, no matter what situation you find yourself in, you can always follow Christ for guidance, and that will get you through, no matter how like confusing and bombarded with new information you are.
I think that's true. And I also think like something about David, maybe like something inherent to David, is that I see his career as an ongoing tug of war between the sacred and the secular. And the fact that like he has the looks, he has the acting ability to be an action hero. Maybe not the top action hero, but like still, like, I mean, he absolutely has the chops. Like he's muscular. But
could happen. Never thought I'd see Paul Rudd in a Marvel movie.
Right.
Or Bob Odenkirk's the new John Wick.
Right. But like, I guess this is just to say that like, he's a person where, like, how can I even say this? Like, he's a person where he has what seems like the total package, but there's something about him that just evokes, like, I'm innocent. Like, I'm not really supposed to be, like, shooting these guns. I'm not supposed to be committing crimes. It's interesting.
I mean, my theory was that it was his voice is really holding him back. It kind of reminds me when, like, Justin Timberlake was trying to get into acting, and he, like, famously had, like, voice coaches trying to lower his voice so he could play more serious roles.
That.
Yeah.
Oh my God, another Southland Tales comparison.
Yeah.
Because that entire premise of Southland Tales is Justin Timberlake reading the Book of Revelations as a narrator.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
He also never really gets lost in a character.
Right.
Like, he always feels like there's always that barrier of he feels like he's acting, even when he's, like, holding a knife to somebody's throat, yelling, "Speak English" at a Japanese man.
Right.
In this movie.
That did, I forgot that did actually happen. There was quite an extended scene of that.
Talk to me in English. Let me hear you say you're a cop. Come on, show me your badge.
He's not a cop, I swear.
You. Shut up. You. Talk to me in English or you lose your head. You want to put me in jail? No, nothing.
He never lets the character, like, really take over him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, like, you know, that's not necessarily an intentional thing on his part, but I do think that's, like, his overriding aura is that he can't ever really, like, go into hell. You know what I mean? He has a halo around him. I mean, in his early life, when he was getting his first secular TV roles, he was a teen then, but wasn't he normally cast as kind of like a very good looking, but still kind of like goody or like, you know, like nerd type of role. In Second Glance, his character is someone who, like, wishes he was a bad boy and can't be. And in this movie, he's literally playing, like, dual aspects of his personality. He's split screen as his own twin, playing, like, an evil twin and, like, a good twin.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's this, like, eternal struggle for him of, like, he kind of wants to be a bad boy, but he just can't do it.
Because that's what he is in real life. He came from Mennonite family in Iowa.
I think so.
And came out here, and, like, he's always been the
Kansas.
fish out of water. Oh yeah, Kansas. He's always been the fish out of water.
Yeah.
And he can't shake that. He can't shake that aura.
So, you know, just a little intro to plot of Mercy Streets, to set up the idea of David Arrowhite playing his twin selves. I'll start by saying that we first meet David Arrowhite as his bad self. He's a criminal in the streets. He's working under the tutelage of Rome, who is a sort of crime boss, counterfeiter guy who's being played by Eric Roberts. And we find out that, like, David Arrowhite's character, I'm going to try to refer to him by his character name. As the bad brother, his name is John. So we learn that John is in some sort of, like, deep trouble, even within the criminal realm. Like, Rome is really, like, giving him his last chance. He's really kind of, like, trapped him into this situation where he has to cooperate with this counterfeit scheme that Rome is running, where he's going to, like, trick these people into buying $20 million worth of counterfeit bills. But he's actually going to swindle them at the last minute.
I got a job all ready to go. It's for $1 million.
I'm not doing any more time for you.
Camp really got to you, huh, John?
Rome, it's not camp. It's prison.
And now you're out. So what's the big deal?
You came to pick me up from jail with a body in the trunk.
Yes, I did. Now get in the car.
Meanwhile, David Arrowhite also portrays Jeremiah, who is an Episcopalian preacher who's just about to get control of his own parish, and he's working on his sermon, but it's a little too technical. It doesn't have spirit. He's just sort of listing facts. He's good at what he does, but he's missing this kind of spark, and that's going to be a theme that goes through the rest of the film too.
It definitely shows that you know the Bible. It's just very long.
It's as long as it should be.
I know. It's just a lot of detail to take in all at once.
Sam, that's the whole point. The detail is what makes the passage so
It's
relevant.
not the passage. It's just If you could deliver it with a little
The sermon sucked, brother.
Very constructive, thanks.
Come on, Jay. Wake me up, man. Move me. That's what you up there for.
So that's where we meet our two Davids in this film, John and Jeremiah.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of sort of the me again dilemma, where his life sort of lacked spark and he was just sort of sleepwalking through. And the guy's giving a sermon, the genealogy of Christ, and he's just like literally listing like so and so beget so and so,
right?
And they're falling asleep in the pews.
Lists are boring.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people don't preach about like Deuteronomy and Numbers and like those ones.
Yeah, fuck Numbers. If anyone came up to me and said their favorite book of the Bible was Numbers, I wouldn't listen to a word of what they
If anybody came up to you and said like 12 or something.
Why people are always saying 14, 80, 100. I'm like, shut the fuck up, okay? Get real. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting that, again, if David A.R. White's career could be characterized as sort of like struggling with this dual nature of himself that maybe, I don't know for a fact, but maybe inhibited him from a certain type of success. And he's definitely successful in general. Yeah. Then it's interesting to see in this film that his quote unquote good brother character, Jeremiah, in that character's personal life, he's also like struggling to capture this like spontaneity, this excitement, because he's so like by the numbers. His character like always goes for a run at 7 p.m. He has a long-term girlfriend named Sam, and they seem like they're at the edge of getting married. Like they're trying to decide whether to take that step or not, so they're quite committed. But she's really frustrated with him. You know, she's like, and it's clear why. I mean, he's like kind of a dick. Like he like barely even like sees her. He's just kind of focused in his own goals. She wants to go to like some art retreat or art school or something, and he's like, but how does this fit into my plan?
You gotta be kidding me. You're going for your 7 o'clock run?
What? Sounds to me like we're done here.
Yeah, she's
really
moving to
pissed off.
Chicago to make it as an artist.
She's a painter, and you know, just to like keep the plot moving.
His wife was a painter in Me Again.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Wow, we're talking yet another David A.R. White film where he plays the sort of like
his partner is a painter.
Yeah, his partner's a painter, and he's like not really there, like in the relationship. Like he's like not really. That's very interesting parallel.
Everything old is new again.
But yeah, so the brothers, you know, we'll get into a little later, you know, how their lives began to be separated from each other, though they were once intertwined. But in the first act of this film, they meet again in a mix-up. Bad brother John flees Rome and tries to rip him off, and he's being pursued by Rome and his thugs. Jeremiah has just had a big fight with his girlfriend about their future. John actually tries to go to Jeremiah's house to, I don't know, like borrow or steal money or just like try to find a way to hide out. At the same time that Jeremiah is out for a run. And Jeremiah, they fucking punch him in the face and throw him in the back of a truck and take him away thinking he's John. Meanwhile, John's just at his brother's house, and he just has to sort of live his life right now. And this is where the movie really begins.
Yeah. Twin swap.
And twins.
It's incredible.
It's real. It's
yes.
I have examples of real life twin swap.
Really?
Yeah, they're both basketball related. And they're both the same twins. But
is it the Morris twins?
Yeah, the Morris twins. They're always getting into hijinks.
What did they do?
Well, there's a famous rumor that one of them was playing for the Pistons and was not in the playoffs. And his brother, twin brother, Markeef, I think, was playing for the Celtics, and they were up against, or he was playing for the Wizards, and they were playing against the Celtics in the playoffs. And Markeef got hurt and was supposed to be out for like a week, but then he miraculously was like back in like 3 days and playing like he was never hurt.
That's awesome.
And more recently, they Markeith, is it Marcus or Markeith who plays for the Clippers?
Marcus plays for the Clippers.
Okay, so Marcus plays for the Clippers right now, and Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, just gave him a massive contract to keep him on the team. Meanwhile, his brother Markeith plays for the crosstown Lakers, or the crosstown rival Lakers, who not even same building rival Lakers.
Yeah.
And he took a pay cut to stay on the Lakers, and then posted on Instagram that he was thanking his brother for letting him have a joint bank account. So he kind of swindled Steve Ballmer out of a bunch of extra money and was able to make it so his team could pay him less and sign somebody else.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What a grip.
Because they have the same bank account.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's
I didn't
really
even think
cool.
about that fact.
Yeah.
I knew that they shared a bank account, but wow.
That's really cool.
Honestly, in
That's
this
some
movie too, they
4D
are in a
chess.
position. Yeah, they're in a position too where they could basically do the same thing, where they can grift the grifters, but they learn too much about humility and God, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Twin swap works if you love each other. But in this
Right.
movie, they do not get along so well.
Right.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
But they get to walk in each other's shoes, and a couple things happen. For me, one of the most interesting parts of the film is how John now has to inhabit the relationship with his brother's girlfriend, Sam. And all of a sudden, like, I find this dynamic very interesting, in part because although Sam's character isn't like mocked, like we're not like led to believe that she's like crazy or whatever, they still portray her as like the woman. Like she says things like, if we want to go to Chicago, we have to talk about it, and if we don't want to go to Chicago, we have to talk about it. And it's like sort of played for a laugh. It's like women do be wanting to talk about things though. And there's like that scene in they go to eat and they're at the roller rink, and she's like, she orders something for herself, but then just like eats what he orders. And it's like, they do be doing that though, but it's like, it's interesting because their relationship is like saved by John coming in and being the like dark, brooding, like spontaneous, like sees her in a dress and is like, damn, you look great. Like, let's paint the town red.
You ready for dinner?
Yeah. Sure.
Fugazzi's or the lamplighter?
Let's try something different. You decide.
Really?
Yeah. Anything you want. My treat.
Okay.
And she's like, paint the town red?
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
I love
dynamic.
painting.
Yeah.
We should mention, though, it is not cool what he's doing.
Yeah, that's a
He
good
is
point.
Assuming
actually.
the identity of someone else and using that to its full advantages in
Right.
that person's relationship. Not good.
Meanwhile,
Very
Episcopal
bad.
minister Jeremiah immediately tells his brother's girlfriend, like, "Oh yeah, I'm not him."
Yeah. Well, that's the difference between the good twin and the evil twin.
Right. But Jeremiah, so, he's been kidnapped by Rome. At first, of course, I assumed that like the situation would be such that they like didn't believe him, thought he was John, but Rome was like hip to it right away. And Rome was basically like, listen, like, this heist is in motion. Like, I'm going to hold you hostage and make you play your brother's role because I can't find your brother and this needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, while John is moonlighting as a priest, Jeremiah is learning a life of crime. Eric Roberts' Rome is teaching him like how to brandish a gun, giving him tips on how to pull off this heist, which, like you were saying, Julian, is very dependent on the other party, like them anticipating exactly what the other party is going to say and do,
Yeah.
which is very funny.
It always works out when you have a writer just making people do things. Like these guys are trying to make what, like they're giving away like $10 million or something.
Right.
And still it's just like, okay, they're going to show up. It's just going to be the two bumbling fools who have tens of millions of dollars to spend. And they're not going to like have any security. They're both cowards. They're going to run away as soon as they see a gun.
Right.
Yeah, it's very, very silly. Very like stupid man trying to write a smart man.
Well, this then brings up like something that becomes a struggle in this film, which is that like we have John, who is trying to win back some of the money he lost by rigging the money collection at the church, for instance. You know, he's putting on a good face to steal money.
These kids are falling through the cracks. Even now, as we sit here, they have no food, no money, and worst of all, they have no hope. We gotta do something about this. We gotta do something about this right now. We need to put our money where our mouths are. So I suggest that this morning's collection go towards starting an outreach program for the welfare of juvenile offenders. What do you say? Huh? Don't you think that God would like that?
But Jeremiah, now inhabiting his like bad brother's shoes, he is faced with a difficult choice. You know, he has to commit like very grave sins, but he thinks he's doing it for the right reasons. And there's even some dialogue with Eric Roberts talking about, you know, like what he's doing, why he's going in to commit these crimes.
Let me ask you something, preacher. You think people got free will?
I believe people have the freedom to make their own decisions.
But God has a plan, right?
Absolutely. He has a plan for everyone's life, even yours, Rome.
Mm-hmm. I keep that going. So this crime you're about to commit, that's part of God's plan for your life?
No, you're making me do this.
Oh, so you're saying I have power over God?
That's not what I'm saying. You're twisting my words. I'm saying I'm doing this to help my brother, and that's a good thing.
Well, you can't just ignore the bad thing. I mean, you're stealing from people here. I'm pretty sure that's a sin.
In the context of this movie, I guess my discussion question then for us is like, is it right to commit a sin if it's for a greater good? What do we think the movie thinks about that? Or our own opinions, but what do we think the movie thinks about that?
I think the movie thinks that is, of course, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I felt
too.
that was kind of the vibe from it, because Jeremiah is very much like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to commit this crime because I want to rescue my brother. I don't want him to die. I don't want his girlfriend to die either.
Yeah, I agree, but the movie conveniently never takes it to a place where that viewpoint is complicated.
Yeah.
It just like wraps itself up in a neat little bun. And yeah, I think that's true. I think that while this movie was like pretty coherently written and it was exciting, I do think there was like a little bit of complication missing from that too. It's like Jeremiah isn't really punished. I guess you could say at the end of the movie he's punished, but it's pretty clear that he's going to have a way out. We don't really he's not very conflicted about his punishment, which we'll reveal at the end. But I feel like morally, like in the context of the movie, like I just don't really think that he has to endure much of a punishment for the actions that he takes. You know? And it works like exactly how he wants it
Right.
to work, where he's like, I'm going to do this and it's for my brother and he's going to forgive me. And
Right.
he does it and his brother bails him out and forgives him.
Right. Like I don't necessarily think this should have happened, but I felt like maybe if the character of Jeremiah were to, for instance, die in the heist, then it would have been a little maybe more complicated just from a writing perspective. It would have been he made a sacrifice and, he was sort of punished because he got involved in a life of sin when he could have just like tried to contact the cops and just like get this all over with. You know, he still may have done like the right thing in that he spared a man's life who will then be able to ask for forgiveness. But I don't know, because spoiler, the movie ends with both of the brothers like surviving and thriving, basically.
Yeah.
It just like really sort of eliminates to me like any of the moral implications of what he's doing.
Oh, worth noting too, the movie opens up with, we don't know which David it is, saying,
I murdered my brother.
No, it's true. Yeah, the movie begins with that sort of ambiguity, and
we don't even know there's twins.
And twins.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Ostensibly, we're going into Mercy Streets, not even knowing what the film's about. But yeah, we get this little glimmer. David A.R. White saying, I murdered my brother. And when we see that again in the movie later, we know who it is, which is John as Jeremiah. This is John now wearing the preacher's frock, wearing the preacher's clothes, you know, confessing his sins, but
confessing his brother's sins.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because there is that part of the movie where John, to get vengeance, basically tries to like ruin Jeremiah's reputation. Like he like says to his girlfriend, he's like, your art sucks. Like you're living in a dream world.
Yeah.
and like pushes her across the room.
Are you kidding me? Thinking you could make it as a painter. Your work sucks. You live in a dream world.
And
mean.
It's pretty mean. It's pretty hilarious though. And also, yeah, he confesses to his fellow, you know, preacher, like, yeah, you don't know who I am, but the preacher does. Like he already confesses, and he's like, God's already forgiven you. Like you have to accept that. Like you have to forgive yourself.
I can't be a priest. Jeremiah, we've been through this. God has forgiven you. He's forgiven you.
What? But it was my fault. I am a murderer.
Son, I've seen you down on your knees. And God has heard you and he has forgiven you. You must accept that and move on.
Which I thought was pretty well done. Like a pretty nice like look at the idea of forgiveness.
Yeah, and in the meantime, the real Jeremiah actually is having trouble forgiving himself. He feels really guilty because he does feel like he let his brother down.
Yeah,
and he never talks about John, his bad brother, to anyone. It's like a big point with his longtime cop roommate. It's like, you had a brother? Like he doesn't.
Right.
He didn't tell anyone about him. And he says he thought he was dead.
That's true. Should we talk about why that might be, or should we talk about the cop roommate? I almost feel like I want to talk about the cop roommate first, because that is such a fascinating part of this film.
It's much more important about the cop roommate. Really, all you need to know about him thinking his brother's dead is that he thought it was partially his fault and never looked into it beyond that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that obviously haunts him to this day.
Did he know his brother was alive?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He said he didn't.
Okay.
No, and there was
He's
even
an honest man.
There was even that newspaper article at the end that we see, a clipping of an old newspaper article that was like, local teen mourns brother's death or something like that. So somehow he's able to like exist in the world as like a dead man, like with an alias. I don't know how he's been able to like make it that far, assuming he doesn't have any like ID or anything like that.
Well, Rome took him under his wing.
Right.
He rescued him from the river.
Everything.
Yeah.
But the cop roommate his name is Tex in the film. The actor who portrays him is Sheikh Mahmoud Bey, who I'm not familiar with. I haven't seen him in anything else, but he does a good job. But yeah, so for some reason, I don't know. I mean, people have roommates. I mean, I'm the age of the people in this film, and I have a roommate. But it's just like, it's funny. I don't know, the idea of like a cop and a preacher like rooming together
in like a small town.
Yeah,
with like in their mid 30s.
Yeah, it just didn't
seem like that would happen.
No, it didn't seem real. Like, it's obviously a movie, but it was like, that was one of the weirder plot choices to me. Like, why did they have to be roommates? Why couldn't they just be friends?
It seemed like they just were only roommates for the purposes of Tex like investigating
Right.
John.
Right.
Because he was like, oh yeah, you didn't put your keys in the same spot that you normally do. Or being like, hey, you broke all the dishes. Like it seemed like it was just an excuse for him to be in the same house as him without having to have any sort of pretense for that.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty convenient in the end.
Yeah.
Very. But a conversation between Tex, the cop, and Jeremiah, although at this point John is being Jeremiah, they have one of the most interesting exchanges in the whole film, which I think is like very telling, which is they're trying to decide which is more morally correct. If a teen does, let's say there's like a teen who's in a bad life situation and has turned to a life of crime, either out of necessity or they're like acting out in some way. And someone, let's say, commits a robbery. Should that kid go to jail? Okay. And there's like a back and forth here.
All I'm saying is that when kids get in trouble, we should figure out something to do with them besides throwing them in jail.
I totally disagree. I think those kids need jail. Punishment that matches the crime.
You really love being a cop, don't you? Just lock them all up.
What are you talking about? I'm not trying to hurt kids. I'm trying to save them. Look, if I hadn't have done that time, I wouldn't be here today. I guarantee it. I was robbing people, Jay. And you may not know anything about it, but it takes something out of you. Stealing what someone else worked hard for. It was killing me. But Jesus saved my life by letting me go to jail.
Or should he be let off the hook? The only two.
Those are the only two options. Yeah.
Right. Correct.
And the cop says that he was that teen and he went to jail and it straightened him out and now he's a cop. So, analyze that however way you will, but now he believes that all teens who do bad things should go to jail, no questions asked.
Yeah. All teens
Yeah.
All teens are bastards.
Because as we know, the American prison system is great at reforming people and setting them on the straight and narrow.
Yep.
Yeah, this cop like really loves locking people up. And I mean, yeah, I know that's like sort of to be expected. Maybe that is actually like a pretty realistic character choice given this movie, but like there's even like, this is so insignificant, but there's literally that scene at the very end of the movie where the cop picks up Jeremiah from jail and like both of their cars are there.
Yeah.
And like while they're waiting in the lot to exit, like there's another car on the road that speeds by and Tex just immediately puts on his sirens and just takes it. Like at that point it's unclear, like is he even on duty?
Yeah.
Like I guess so, because he's in a cop car, but he's going like, just as a friend to pick his friend up from jail in a cop car, and he like sees someone driving fast. He's like, yo, I gotta give this guy a ticket.
Yeah.
Like I love the idea that like a cop is basically like a Lyft driver. Like you like drive a cop car and like you can just be like, I'll take this one, and then you just like arrest somebody.
The more I think about it,
Fuck. It is what it's like, though.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the more I think about it, he's probably the most accurately written cop in any movie I've ever seen. Just like has all sorts of like unresolved traumas that he's now abusing his position as a cop to determine like the fate of other people's lives.
Yeah, and believes in it. It's almost like best case cop scenario, really. Do you want a cop on the force who's like, yeah, I don't really know if we should be doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
He like genuinely believes in locking people up as the, whatever the letter of the law is, that's what they need.
Like, and he is dead set on putting John back in jail once he figures out that he is not Jeremiah.
Yes.
Even after all the stuff goes down and he's talking to Jeremiah about it and has like context for everything, he's still like, I'm going to take you to jail right now. Like, you're not going to be another kid who just gets let off the hook.
Right.
It's crazy.
Even though he's being framed for someone he didn't do by some kind of like mob boss.
Yeah.
Some kind of like, crime syndicate leader.
Even though the victim of his crime is like, no, please don't. He's not. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and when Jeremiah ends up helping in the final struggle, ends up shooting Rome and stealing the cop car in order to like fulfill this final, morally upright but still this like criminal struggle. The cop's like, well, like I gotta take you to jail.
Yeah.
Like he's basically like, it's not these exact words, but the cop's basically like, okay, listen, I got to take one of you to jail.
Yeah.
All right. Like listen, this is what I got to take someone to jail. All right.
Was it Jeremiah that shot Rome?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So the cop was like, I don't have to take you to jail because I like you and you're my friend.
Yes.
Even though you committed
Yes.
the crime.
Right.
But I'm going to take this guy who is already in jail. He needs to go back to jail.
Yes.
Even though, by my logic, like he should be a straightened out person who hasn't committed any crime, who didn't commit any crime since he got out of jail, other than assuming the identity of his twin brother to save his own life. This guy, Officer Swiss Cheese over here with all the holes in his logic.
No, he really just has to take someone to jail.
Yeah.
He's horny for it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like the eventual outcome of this film, the film itself does seem to have like a bit of a moral gray area with regards to that, because, for storytelling purposes, it's like, we know that Jeremiah did the right thing. And John even made some selfless choices by the end of the movie. It's clear his character has evolved. But so, there is a little bit of gray area for the audience in the movie, but not for Tex. Tex is like, listen, I'm taking one of you to jail.
Yeah.
Just pick what you guys pick, which one it is. You're going to jail.
I told you who I wanted it to be.
But ultimately it's up to you.
Oh, but real quick though. So importantly though, John does mention he makes the good point of, although you're so hard-lined on this Tex, my brother might deserve this, but it's not what he needs, which is a pretty good point.
Right.
Like, just because that's the rules doesn't mean that that's what's the most helpful thing.
Right.
Yeah. Also, I don't even think deserves is the right word for it, but that's the closest we're going to get in this kind of movie.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and it seems like since that's coming from one of the heroes of the story, that seems to be the movie's viewpoint, which is good. Better than a lot of, morally expounding movies that we've watched.
Yeah.
Prison Reform. David A.R. White, big proponent of prison reform.
Well.
Yep.
Yeah, so, Mercy Streets, we have a pretty complicated, we have twin swapping and a very interesting moral tale involving street criminals, heists, cops, things of that nature. Very thrilling. And because the plot is so like reliant on like you may not at all times knowing like which twin is doing what, we're not gonna really go over every moment like that. I invite you to watch it. I think you'd really enjoy it, anyone who listens to the show. But let's just take a sec and talk about just some favorite moments, out of context or not, just moments that we thought were pretty funny or unique within this film. What comes to mind?
I liked when Jeremiah asked Sam to marry him, and her immediate response is, "This is the worst thing you've ever done." I don't think you need to know any other context about it. It's very funny.
The villain Rome was very much of the era of like bad guys with like eccentric personalities. Like his was cooking in this one. He would watch Emerald in the Hideout and like made a lot of like cooking puns and analogies when he was going through the heist, and was like, there was a scene where he was threatening to basically like kill somebody with a meat tenderizer. Didn't go through with it, but he was also wearing an apron, a cooking apron that said Rome wasn't built in a day. And I feel like in this kind of movie, they found the apron first and then named the character.
I hope
or
so.
like,
I hope that's true.
maybe he had a placeholder name until like he saw that apron. Also, the Fugazis. They mentioned a restaurant named Fugazis, which I'm alone on this, but I think that just like this movie trying to be as cool as it is and like made by guys in their late 20s. I think that might be the first Fugazi reference in any of the movies that we've watched.
Honestly, I'm getting into that theory more and more that we discuss the film, because like it was very like that's the type of shit that like I would do it. I would reference one of my favorite bands.
Well, it was like a movie.
Yeah.
It was like a movie of a guy made by a guy clearly trying to prove that he's cool with like the alt rock soundtrack.
Yes.
And like I feel like maybe when they were writing it, he wanted to throw in like a thing like, oh, this is the one real heads will get.
Yeah, like and you're a real head, obviously.
Yeah.
I think about like just sort of going back to the aesthetic of this movie, like John's like she's a very minor character, but his like girlfriend from the streets named Sunny, who has this sort of like manic pixie dream girl vibe. She's wearing like a lock like around her neck as like jewelry, and like she's wearing all these like loud pattern. There's this like scene of her like lying on the ground like handcuffed, and you could see like all the patterns of her things and like her like messy hair kind of like flowing off and like this lock around her neck, and that part really did give me like romantic 90s like cool vibe. Like this movie's trying to be very cool, you know? So I honestly really buy that theory. I think that could have literally been a reference to the bands.
And also, it's a really pretty looking movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
it looks
really
great.
is.
Yeah.
Shot on film.
Yeah, it looks good.
Really surprised.
I liked David A.R. White's fake crying.
Oh,
in this film.
That was so bad.
After watching
man.
a couple weeks in a row of his films, we've basically ascertained that he's a pretty good actor, and probably the thing he does the worst is cry.
Like in emotional extremes, he is very hard to take seriously.
That's where he's always, he's like he's an action guy. You know what I mean? That's like his role. He's always he's the perfect lead for all these films because he's always emotionally at like a 7.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He'll be intense. He'll be like, but you're right. Once he has to really get like personal and vulnerable, it's really difficult for him to take it out of that like 7 range into a 9 or 10 where he's like really, crying or screaming or evil or anything like that, There's a couple kisses in this film.
Yeah.
David A.R. White's kissing ladies.
The
in this
Bachelor,
movie.
David A.R. White, can kiss on camera now.
Yeah. At least in the year 2000, he was willing. He hadn't gotten married for another 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, right? That's what we determined.
Yeah.
In our research. Yeah. So he wasn't married. And, the making out never got like too extreme. They weren't like feeling each other up or anything, but
they were pretty quick kisses, but they were on the mouth.
And there was that scene when
he was fighting his twin and he kissed his twin.
I wish. In my adult fan fiction, adultfanfiction.net/Ashnerve, you can read my David A.R. White twincest /fics. But
your story, me again.
Yeah. But on that like first date that they go on, which is like actually John dating Jeremiah's girlfriend, but it's when like she's starting to notice a change in him, that he's basically gotten hotter, but it's because she's actually dating his criminal twin. There's like that scene where like, they've been like really flirting with each other and she's clearly like really turned on, and they're like sitting in the parking lot and they like give each other a hug. That's like how it ends,
Yeah.
It's still not like, what you'd really expect.
I thought that was the best we were going to get.
Me too.
But then they took it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. They took it to halfway to first base.
Yeah. Who would win in a fight? John and Jeremiah or the Property Brothers?
Oh my God, John and Jeremiah, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Those Property
John and
Brothers,
Jeremiah.
They threw down.
Those Property Brothers would fold like a chick tract.
John and Jeremiah will pull the trigger. We learned that in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah. I keep thinking about how John rips off the hot dog vendor at the beginning, and then we know Jeremiah's hit rock bottom when he tries to get change from the same hot dog vendor and gets punched in the face.
That was so cool.
And then ends up nearly killing him, and that's like his moment of reckoning is when he's confessing to the priest that he nearly killed a hot dog vendor.
Yeah.
So cool.
That was great. Great callback.
Oh, looking at our notes, I love when Stacy Keach said, Jeremiah comes in and he's looking all sad. He's looking for advice. And Stacy Keach goes,
You know, you look like a wise man who lost all his frankincense. Or maybe his myrrh.
He also had the really great line of, I knew a guy who had money problems. Then he lost both his legs.
Okay.
That was it. Then his money problems didn't seem so bad after all. He was cool in this movie.
He was.
Not enough Stacy Keach. Gonna say that again.
Yeah, could have had more Stacy.
Is there any job you think you could do just showing up first day, thrown right into everything? Everybody already knows your name. Like you swap somebody else.
That's a good question.
And how far could you go? Is there any job you would like to do that with?
I think I could be the freaking president.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
okay, well, you already have a Twitter account. So.
I'm not banned yet. No, but honestly, I don't know. I think this is so offensive. Not really. I feel like I could be a teacher. I could be like a music teacher. Can't be that hard, right? You're just fucking telling people things, right? No offense, anyone.
I think so. I want to do like subway driver.
Ooh, yeah.
Because that seems like a fun one because you'd also have to... Okay, in my scenario, it's a rule where everybody gets to do it once without getting into trouble.
Yeah.
And if you can pull it off successfully for the day, then you get your stimulus check. Yeah. I want to do subway driver because you get to like press a bunch of buttons and see which one works and which one doesn't.
Right. And like you're just on a track.
Yeah.
Like it's not
so
like,
how badly could you do that?
Right.
So for the same reasons a small child would want to be a subway driver.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
literally,
your
I'm
thought process.
I'm saying a 7-year-old could drive a train.
Okay.
No
well, that
mind.
7-year-old's going to get $1,600.
Mm-hmm. He deserves it.
Nice.
In PPP.
Oh, you could buy so many Legos with that. Oh, I don't remember who said this in the movie, but at one point in the movie, someone says the guy who can keep his hand on the gun makes the rules. I forget why they said that.
That's
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was John talking to Rome's thug. Whatever that guy's name was, TJ, I think.
Oh, yeah, when he
Right.
disarms him.
Yeah, but you know, that same type of scene plays out multiple times in the movie. There's like there's literally like 5 or 6 times in the movie where like a character's held at gunpoint and then the other character like steals his gun.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, that happens so many fucking times in this movie.
And this movie depends so much on these like 6 people only knowing each other, and only like their rule is like we will never call a 7th person to get involved in this. No matter how many times people are threatening to kill me or pointing guns at me.
Right.
I will never bring in a 7th person into our polycule.
I love that.
That would make the budget higher. They can't.
Right.
It
do
would,
that.
and it would also just totally ruin the whole plan of like, here's what you got to do: get between them and their money.
I'm obsessed with stuff like that. I mean, this is like nothing to do with this film at all, but like the film that comes to mind where that is so true is the Zac Efron EDM movie We Are Your Friends, because like there's only like 3 characters in that film. There's like a famous EDM DJ, and it's like, literally, do you not know anyone else? Like, why are you hanging out with Zac Efron? It's just like a movie that is like very uncomplicated, because it appears that there's like Zac Efron. It's funny because the movie's called We Are Your Friends, but it's like Zac Efron only knows 3 people. This very famous DJ literally doesn't have any friends, and that's I love movies like that like imply that there's no one else in the world.
It's so funny because it would just all fall apart. If they were just like, you know what, I think I'm going to stop hanging out with these people. I'm going to hang out with my other group of friends that I have.
Right.
Yeah. Every movie would just end with them it would end after 20 minutes when that person goes to another friend and just sort of vents about what was going on with those other friends.
Good shit. Well,
yeah.
What do you say, boys? Should we bring this thing home?
Let's knock her out of the park.
Let's knock her out of the park.
7 months in prison, coming home.
Yeah. I suppose I'll end by saying that this movie resolves with Jeremiah decides to take the fall in this heist because he doesn't have a criminal record, and John does. So he spares him. He's like, they're going to put you away for 25 years. They'll put me away for 6 months, which he's very sure of himself.
Once again, another thing where somebody's expected outcome in reality matches up with the outcome in reality.
Yeah, like he killed a criminal and stole a police car, and
he
he's
didn't kill him.
Oh yeah, he shot a criminal,
survived.
Which I think could easily be said to have been self-defense, and stole a cop car. So, but he's still so sure. He's like, oh, they'll just give me 6 months, and then there's a title that says 7 months later, and it's him being released from prison. It's that was efficient.
Yeah, it looks even better coming out of prison than he did going in.
Mm-hmm. And the prison guard's I'm rooting for you, kid. I don't want to see you back here. It's very, very rosy.
I thought they always just said I hope you're truly rehabilitated. Good luck with the rest of your life.
But yeah, so the movie ends on a very happy note with John and the cop Tex picking Jeremiah up from prison. He's a free man. His girlfriend still likes him. John seems to have turned his life around under the watch of Tex, who is literally a cop. And things seem to be
They
looking
had
up.
to be roommates too.
Yeah, that is so funny that he lived with
Why
him.
didn't he just get his own apartment? Yeah. He stole a fat wad of cash from the heist. Was that part of his deal where he's I'm going to take you? He was probably I will, now that your brother's in jail, I'm going to take you to jail unless you live with me.
Right.
Take over his lease.
I need a roommate. What can I say? I don't want to find someone else. I don't know anyone else. Yeah. So, we pretty happy ending for this action thriller, Mercy Streets, year 2000 film. What do we say, boys? Let's give this thing the official Boys Bible Study rating. What do we say?
I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5 veggie burgers with no cheese and extra pickles, light mayo. Actually, make that 5 hot dogs with jalapenos.
That's a pretty good rating. I would say that's a perfect score.
This movie's good. It's scary in the same way that another example is God's Not Dead 3.
Mm-hmm.
Is a movie that is so close to being secularly acceptable and competently made and actually endearing in parts that once they crack that code, this nation is doomed.
Yeah.
We might truly become a Christian nation.
Yes. It's
as opposed to what it's been for the past 250 years.
No, they're getting closer and closer to taking over the world. Their movies are getting too good. Granted, this movie was now literally 20 years ago, and so many shittier ones have been made since then, but still, they're getting better and better.
Yeah. Think of that KJ Apa movie we watched this past year that was very sleek and had a good budget. What a nothing that was.
What a slog. Oof. Yeah, I would say I got to give Mercy Streets. I'm giving it 1 Garth Brooks out of 1 Chris Gaines.
Oh.
Okay, because
another famous swap.
Mm-hmm, another famous twin swap.
What the fuck's going on in the world?
The world's gone mad.
So many people swapping.
The world's gone damn mad, if I have to say so myself. But yeah, I say that for a couple of reasons. 1, because Garth Brooks, Chris Gaines, another famous twin swap. 2, David Ayer White literally looks like Chris Gaines in this film. He has the black swoopy hair. He looks like Chris Gaines. But like I said, I gotta say, one gay guy's opinion, he looks good in this film. This is David Ayer White, prime piece of meat years. So go off, King. And overall, I guess my thought is that of everything I've watched exploring Christian movies, this is the most, we're always on the hunt for like what is the film that can most interface with the secular world and like basically pass as a secular movie. This is probably the closest we're going to get. I mean, I'll keep my eyes open. You know, I'm always willing to see something else, but I have a feeling like this is the closest we're going to get.
I mean, Heaven Quest.
Yeah, well,
like
Heaven Quest I don't even think that like really seemed like that was just like weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has to get a lot closer to a movie before we talk about it
true.
like that.
It's just bad.
What about you, Scott? What do you think?
All right, this movie was perfect in every single way. It looked great. It was a great length, paced well. We got twice the David A.R. White as usual. So, I mean, giving it like a 5 out of 5 wouldn't be fair because that's just what a one David A.R. White movie would be.
Oh!
And you can't just double it because David has a multiplying effect. So I'm going to give this 20 million out of $1 million.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that's beyond perfect. I mean, talk about a perfect film. Mercy Streets.
Two Davids way up.
That's we're giving it an A and an R. Okay, this movie gets the perfect AR rating. Well, I would say that is the official Boys Bible Study discussion and review of Mercy Streets. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope you will check this film out if you like it. You know, support independent film. I don't know. But you know, as always, I would like to invite you, if you enjoy our free episodes, which we put out almost every Sunday at boysbiblestudy.com. I hope you've already subscribed. If not, do that. If you like our show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love that. And if you do, and you have a movie that you want us to review, write it there with your 5-star review because we're always open to suggestions. That would be nice. And do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/boysbiblestudy. We do at least 2 bonus episodes for the subscriber gang every month if you pledge $5 or higher. So check it out. Also, if you pledge to the $20 tier, you get a shout out on every episode. These are our patron saints of Boys Bible Study. Shout outs and much respect to Nicole, Marissa, Russell, and Jeff. And our outro music, of course, is Oh My God by Mary. Check out Mary on Bandcamp and Spotify. On behalf of myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, as always here at BBS, we like to say, peace be with you.
And with you.
And with you. What was his accent? I forget.
And with you.
And with you. And with you.
And with you. See?
And with
and
you.
With you.
It was very fluid.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when